What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Dolce Show. I mention you quite a bit when I talk about my friends and people I respect in the fitness world.
Oh, I appreciate that.
Of course. Well, it's earned, and you know that's something that's challenging these days. These days of social media and kind of Insta, fitness celebrities and popularity. It's very rare to have someone who's a fitness influencer and has the look, but also has the educational background as you do, and the athletic background as you also do. So it's kind of, that's the triple threat in our world, right?
Like it. Can you do all my PR? This is what we need to tell the brands.
Right, exactly.
I was literally having that conversation a few days ago with someone to do with some potential work, and they said it's frustrating for people like you, as in me, because they said, there's girls with millions, hundreds of thousands of followers because, quite frankly, they show their butt, and for people that are, and I don't just mean myself, I know many like kick-ass women and men who are, trying to make their content educational and have that knowledge and background, being looked over sometimes for people that just have more followers,
Yeah. And it's something that I struggle with to this day, is that we made the conscious decision not to market ourselves and our brand like that. We don't even really use before and afters unless someone really asks us to, or we feel there's a special story. So we try and not really go to more of just the gratuitous visual clicks. We really had a little bit more content wise, the butts and the boobs and kind of all that stuff, though nice, it's not really representative of a fitness brand, nor it should be. And
I think it has a place. Like I think it has a place. If sometimes if someone wants to follow how you work out, how you eat, what you do, showcasing how a body can look when you do that, whether it's a client's before and afters, like you say, or whether it's yourself, I think it has an effect. But it depends on the eyes looking at that. Are they reading the caption? Are they looking at why you might be showing that picture, or are they just looking? It's clickbait, are they just looking for gratification, etc. So it's a fine balance, and I'm not going to say my page doesn't have the odd bikini thing on whatever here because I'm in Australia, or I'm on a beach, or I'm working out on the beach, etc. And they get more likes. It's just fact. But
shocking.
At the same time, shocking. But at the same time, it's like I always try and 99% of the time make sure whatever I'm posting, I'm trying to either inspire, educate, share, have fun, whatever it might be. So it's a challenge.
Yeah, and I think you really do a good job with that, because there's always great takeaways from your content. And you're a very attractive young lady. You certainly look the part of a fitness expert, but you're certainly differentiated from many of the other Insta fitness celebrities who have millions of followers because they shake their ass. And I don't want to be like, crass when I say that, but I say that intentionally because what they're doing is crass. And the poses, I'm the father of 2 young daughters.
Right.
And
so you're seeing it differently, from that perspective.
It's very unsettling to see that what young ladies, and I'll talk about the guys too, which is just as bad in their own way, but what these young ladies feel like they have to offer the world in order to gain recognition or acceptance or just even attention. It's all ass shots. I mean, primarily, again, being a little crass here, posing in these manners. It's not like, hey, I'm working the glutes here. This is my glute max, my glute med. This is a way to really accentuate these muscles. You might have to kind of zone in on that area. I get that. A little cheeky shot in the bikini when you're having fun with friends or family, that's great also. But if it's every single photo is the same 3 poses, that has nothing to do with fitness. That's
and it gets rewarded, and that gets rewarded, so it gets perpetuated. And look, I have nothing against people celebrating their body and whatever. Of course, we each have the right to post, do whatever we want, as long as what you receive back via comments or whatever you're okay with, and it sits well with what else you do, brand wise, work wise, company wise, etc. But I've just been trying to find my niche, and also just not getting too caught up in the social media world. I mean, there's that as well. You sometimes even had this conversation last night. You know, I had certain things I had to post. I was at an event and it was my duty to share the things. And I enjoy doing that. I really do. I like sharing. I like storytelling, hence presenting, hosting, etc. But there's some times when I think I just like to leave my phone at home, not worry about social media, but then it's part of my business. So there's commitments and requirements to do a certain amount. So I think it's just finding that balance between, you know, what we consume. I had a little cleanse recently because I was following, as pictures were coming up, I was like, I don't know this person. When did I follow them? Who are they? What am I following them for? So I had a little cleanse through it, etc. And it's just about what you put out and what you take from it. Just making sure it's nothing that makes you either feel bad about yourself or frustrated or whatever it is, you know. And
Sure.
I guess and the funny thing is, as many followers as I gain every day, I'll lose almost close to the same amount, which gives a steady growth, but not a lot. But it's pretty crazy to me. Because like I said, I'll have the occasional cleanse of people I don't know and whatever, but you think to yourself, what did I do for that many people to go unfollow?
It's not enough booty shots, Carolyn.
Not enough booty shots. That's what I'm doing wrong. Yeah,
That's
but then you get a whole host of other people that like, I don't like this. This is too, you know, in your face, etc. So my point is, you can't please everyone. You can't win. You just got to feel good about what you put out and the content you share, and hope that if I just get 1 or 2 messages a day where someone said, that inspired me, I'm trying that workout tomorrow, have you got a tip on certain nutrition or eating, I feel good about it.
Absolutely.
You know, I feel like it's had a purpose.
And I feel the same way, that we're here to impact the world.
Yeah.
And by doing that, it's really one person at a time.
Mm.
You know, we might have audiences of thousands of people, or, you know, whatever venue we might be in, that we get some eyeballs on us. But really, it's a person to person basis. And the message that you're putting out, that we try to put out over here, it's very much a lifestyle based approach. And again, going back to like your Instagram and really what your overall message is, you're a young lady who's out there. This is how you truly exercise. It's how you truly eat. It's how you truly relax or enjoy the benefits of being a fit individual. And I think that certainly resonates with a core audience that are real people, not just the lurkers who are scrolling just for some instant gratification, you know, eye candy.
And you know what? I feel in a place now where I want to share a little bit more of the, not just trying to be superwoman and jumping around and whatever and eating clean. Like, I feel like I've always kind of wanted to, you know, I was an athlete, a performer, you know, you want to almost share the badassery side of what you do, etc. But I feel now people respond more to real. And there's been a few occasions, like when I, just over a year ago, bulged a disc in my back, and I shared that journey of kind of my rehab and what I was doing and, you know, frustrations. The response back was overwhelming. Like, how many other people have back issues, suffering, want help and advice on pain relief, etc. And even, you know, people say to me, every day you're lifting and you're doing HIIT style training, like, don't you get tired, don't you get injured? And I thought, actually, yeah, I never show the days where I'm either resting, doing some steady state cardio and stretching, because it's not exciting content, you know. But at the same time, I thought, you know what, maybe there's something in that. Maybe there's something in sharing, not just the amazing, awesome workouts and I'm eating clean and right, but maybe today's hard and I haven't eaten good today, or, you know, today's training just, you know, I had a session this morning, actually, I just got through it, you know, I was tired, I wasn't motivated, and I just got through it. So I think there's something in sharing more of the kind of real and the authentic, as well as just the showcase how we should do things, you know. I think there's something in that.
That's kind of the anti-social media approach, though, isn't it? Where
it is,
social media is all about your best day, not your average worst day.
It is, but I think people relate to people that are real, you know, like there's certain people I follow that are fitness women that have had babies, and they're sharing the real. Like, it's not pretty, it's not easy, but they're showing the reality of it. It's probably like hundreds of thousands of women out there going, thank goodness, you know, you're not just saying, look, I popped back into shape after 2 months or whatever. You're showing us that it was hard and this is what you had to do, etc. So there's definitely something in that. And, you know, I wanted to ask you as well about, you know, you, even I think it was on your Insta story today, I actually screenshot, you put the kind of like list of things, you know, each day, getting so much sleep, etc. Because, you know, I love all that stuff. And one thing I picked up on was you saying eating every 2 to 3 hours. And I've heard you talk before, like you're not a proponent of like intermittent fasting and stuff like that, right?
No, not inherently, though. What I say first is when we sleep, we fast. Now, typically, I'll have my dinner 3 or 4 hours before I go to bed. I'll get my 8 or 9 hours at night. So that puts me really at a 12-hour fueling and a 12-hour feeding lifestyle. Now, usually I'll wake up, I'll do a little bit of cardio, I'll hydrate first. I won't really have that first meal for an hour or two after arising. So I'm already at a 10 or 11 hour feeding window and a 12 or 13 hour fasting window. What I don't like, and why I speak the way that I do, is trying to be educational so people understand that we're not following a diet. We're not locking ourselves into a rigid, exclusionary, restrictive lifestyle. This is the way that we're actually intended to be living. Now, like our 3 weeks to shredded program, we have, I think, out of the 21 days, there's 3 modified fast days that it's basically you skip breakfast, you stay super hydrated, fresh brewed teas, and then you start, 11 a.m. or so with a raw juice or a salad. And that just helps for digestive efficiency. We're not trying to induce autophagy or these other, keywords that a lot of the, the Insta folks really like to point to. But then they build a point of differentiation around so they can sell their widgets.
Well, it gets confusing, and
yes,
I'd say I'm pretty locked in with how I like to eat and what I like to do. But then, I'll get drawn into these amazing benefits of intermittent fasting, a 16-hour fasting window, or keto, stuff like that. And I think to myself sometimes, I'm like, well, let me try it. I need to experience it to see whether it's going to benefit me. And I can imagine for people that have less education in nutrition and the body, what a minefield it is. And, the conversations I have with women about, well, I've been on keto and then I came off it and now I've gained all this weight and it's this yo-yo effect. And I've just come to this conclusion with me and what I share with other people as well is I did intermittent fasting for a good, I'd say 4 weeks, like really stuck to it rigidly. Were my calories naturally down? Yeah. Did I feel like I lost a little bit weight, looked a bit leaner? Yeah. Was I miserable? Was I hangry? Was I not nice to be around? Did my training suffer? Yeah. So for me, it comes down to what is the best way to eat for you emotionally. For example, most people I know, myself included, have had some issue with food at some point in their life.
Sure.
Not just women, but especially women. Whether you've either been restricted, you've yo-yoed between diets, or you've, I don't know, binging, purging, trying to exercise it all off, all that kind of thing. And I've had many years in my 20s where my day was ruled by food. When I could eat, what I could eat, how long till I could eat, how I would get through a wedding with eating the food there and not my food. And it was miserable and it really ruled my life. So I've found a way of eating that works for me, which is just I eat every 2 to 3 hours. That's why I picked up on what you said. I eat a balance of macronutrients. I don't count them. I don't look at the percentages. I just make sure I know I'm good with fat and good with proteins, carbs. I try and stay away from the stodgy stuff, whatever. I have a little treat here and there. But whenever I've tried something new, like when I did the intermittent fasting, I thought to myself, despite how my body's responding, this is now getting me back in that place mentally where food is ruling my day, So sometimes for me, I'm like, pick something that doesn't rule, choose a way of eating, diet, whatever you want to call it, that just makes eating easy for you. And when I speak to people that do intermittent fasting and they talk about it on their YouTube and they're like, I love it because I don't have to think about food. I can eat once a day. I can eat as much as I want. Now that's great for them. I like food. I like thinking about food. I want to eat food.
Yeah.
So to me, that would be miserable to have to I don't have to worry about food, So I've just come to the conclusion that it's just whatever's good for your soul, your body will tend to then be more intuitively eating what it needs. And sometimes your soul wants fries and burger or cake or whatever. Occasionally it's okay. But I've just, from going around the houses on doing paleo and doing intermittent fasting, whatever, I've kind of settled in a place where this is my level. Sometimes I need to cut it back a little bit. Sometimes I can eat a little bit more and not worry. But as long as I'm just feeling good about food and having a good relationship with food, it's kind of where I've landed.
You really did touch on an area that is the most important aspect of nutrition. It's developing an ordered relationship with food. And most of these exclusionary, restrictive, disordered dietary practices, they create a very unhealthy relationship with food. People are so concerned because they can only eat between 12 p.m. and 6 p.m. Though they might be hungry at 7 or 8 p.m. and that might be more healthy and more beneficial if they do eat, or if they spread their meals a little bit more. And also they're overly obsessive about doing something wrong with their food, and it becomes this negative loop. They're having these negative associations with eating food, but also keto and carnivore and fasting, they very rarely ever discuss the nutrient quality. They simply talk about what and when you can eat these foods. And you see all these carnivores, right? They're so proud of their hamburgers from In-N-Out or wherever, whatever famous hamburger shop, fast food places. They pull off the bun, they throw the tomatoes on the floor, and they eat these disgusting processed cheeseburgers as if somehow that's healthy. That's where I get irritated, because now that's not going to work. They're not going to follow that for very long. A short period of time, they'll fall off of that. They've created content. Again, I know most of these guys and gals, you do too. We know who they are behind the scenes. We know how they really live and really eat, which is often not what the widgets that they're selling. That angers the hell out of me also, because I'm like, yo, I've seen you eat the burrito and the cheeseburger and the bucket of fries and the basket of bread, but you're selling a keto product, and you're taking Winstrol and clenbuterol and growth hormone. You never mentioned that. It's why you got those beautiful.
Well, that's quite funny, because I'm assuming you've seen the Game Changers movie.
Yes.
I mean, I know it's kind of a little, not old news, but it's kind of like everyone's talking about it to begin with. But there was the strongman on there, and I used to host the World's Strongest Man. So I saw this strongman on there, and I was like, oh, this is cool. And he was purely, I don't know if it was vegan or vegetarian, but he was plant-based. But then I thought to myself, but what supplements is he taking to kind of show us how strong you are on plants? There's also a ton of other strongmen that are eating a lot of meat. I used to sit in a canteen with them eating ostrich legs the size of this or whatever. But I just thought, what other supplements are you taking to get that strength? That isn't just a plant-based diet that's achieving that. And I think it was on Joe Rogan's podcast, because I think he recently did the whole, what do you call it? The carnivore eating diet. And the guy from the Game Changers was on the podcast with another scientist, and they were having this debate about how much protein was in a piece of lean beef compared, and the guy from the Game Changers movie was proving that with a peanut butter sandwich you can achieve the same amount of protein. But I thought, well, fine, okay, same amount of protein, but do you want a lot of bread? And I don't know what the quality of the peanut butter is, and I love peanut butter, but you had to have a lot of peanut butter in order for it to equivalent, be the equivalent amount of protein. So just because something has the same amount of protein doesn't mean, well, it's just as good for you. That's why with plant-based meals, I struggle a little bit, because I can get the protein, but it's upping my carbohydrate massively. There's a lack of feeling of satiation for me personally. And do I think it's good for the planet to eat more plant-based more of the time? Yes. Do I try? Yeah, sometimes. But fundamentally, I just know what my body responds to. So I think a lot of these arguments, it just comes down to the individual. What do you respond to? I have a training partner, we're of a similar physique. I'm a little bit taller. We train the same every day. She's a responder to carbs. Like, she can have carbs with every single meal. That's great for her. She eats fats, it really affects her. She feels sluggish. She feels like she gains weight. I'm the other way around. Like, I can eat a lot of fat. I can eat a lot of saturated fat. I can eat a lot of fat, and it doesn't really affect me. My blood measures are good, etc. But too much carb, stodgy carb, your pastas, your, bread, etc. And I don't feel good. I feel sluggish, and I feel that's what affects my weight. So another thing is, I've just learned over time, like when people come to me and say, well, how do you eat? I should eat the same. I'm like, well, find out how you should eat for yourself. And I did one of those like DNA fit style tests. There's a few of them. And it proved everything I thought about myself, which is I'm good with fat. I'm really good with fat, and I need a little bit more careful with the amount of carbohydrate I put in my body. So I'd always say to people, get tested. And some of it you just know yourself, trial and error, what you eat, and just getting in tune with what the food you eat, how it makes you feel. If you have a big, heavy, stodgy meal, you're going to feel a bit lethargic. That's okay on a Sunday if you're watching some football or whatever. But if you've got a day ahead of you, or you want to feel good for a night out, it's probably not the best choice. So it just comes back to knowing how your body responds, and just that intuition as to what it kind of needs. And I just think that comes with time. It comes with awareness. It comes with trying to separate the emotional side from the practical side of what, the reality of what your body needs. So I always say, test yourself. Don't just follow what other people are doing, and get to know your own body.
Agreed. We discuss being intentional with your food choices and being mindful of how you feel. So when I posted those 7 or 8 little points to which you know, we really don't need that many. It's just trying to kind of fill the characters on Twitter, but we go deeper. There's about 20 or so points of principles. But what we try and do is, you've never heard me, no one's ever heard me talk about macros. How many macros should you eat? What should the ratio be? How many calories should you consume per day? I never mentioned that because I don't know. I had Dr. Andy Galpin on the show a year or so ago. Science still can't figure that out. The most sophisticated scientific equipment and brains and think tanks still can't figure that out. Well, some idiot influencer on Instagram or some, you know, podcaster with a few thousand members in his audience, they don't know that either. The only way you can truly figure that out is what I feel, following the principles of eating real food, non-processed food in wide varieties, so you can really start to be mindful and intentional of, well, how do I feel after I have white potato or white rice or black beans or quinoa or maybe oats or buckwheat, you know, or maybe strawberries or blueberries. How does that actually affect me? How does it digest? What is my mood like? And what we say is really, it's about 15 minutes and 45 minutes after a meal. Just be mindful. How do I feel right now? Do you feel like you can push yourself away from the table and go for a light jog? That's what we say, eat until satisfied, not until full.
Yeah.
That's what we're trying to attain. And, you know, being as fit as you are and active as you are, because we'll talk about the other aspects to your career also. The eating every, you know, 2 to 4 hours or so, eating within those windows allows for these, let's say, 300 to 600 calorie meals multiple times throughout the day, allowing you to get in all the vital micro and phytonutrients that you need to operate at a cellular level, which most people, they glance right over cellular activity. They go straight to macros, building muscle and shredding body fat. They have no concept of what's happening on a cellular level. So we really try and push down to the earth-grown nutrients, which is has a greater nutrient density per calorie than any other processed food on the planet. So you can actually eat less total calories per day, be much more satiated, feel much better, preserve and build lean muscle tissue while reducing non-functional body fat. And I didn't have to count a single calorie or weigh a food, or I didn't have to do any of that stuff. So it's a much easier process, and you're living this lifestyle anyway. You eat every 2-3 hours, you're active, you know how your body responds, and you're certainly in the top 1% when it comes to fit humans walking the planet.
Well, it's funny because I feel fit, but sometimes I feel like a fraud because I'm riddled with injuries and inflammation. So how things have transitioned for me over the years is I can train as hard. I can go in the gym, I can throw weights around. I don't choose to go as heavy now because the kind of after effect isn't worth it for me, in that I just don't recover as fast anymore. You know, I have bone on bone in my left knee. I've had this back injury last year. So I try and prove that no matter what's going on, you can train somehow. You can work your body in some kind of way. But I've put a lot more attention lately on eating for like reducing inflammation in my body as well. Just trying to reduce the acidity, you know, getting a more alkaline diet, trying to avoid foods and situations that are going to spike the inflammation affecting my body. And I feel it sometimes, you know. So, you know, a lot of the, people know the leafy green vegetables, do your lemon, ginger. You know, ginger to me is one of the most potent natural anti-inflammatories products, and you can use. I put that stuff in everything from smoothies to my hot water in the morning, etc. So, you know, I'd say through my 20s, through my early 20s, eating was to be the fastest, highest jumping, longest jumping athlete on the planet. And then it transitioned when I retired from sport due to injury and turned a little bit more aesthetic. It was like, I want to stay lean. I'm not an athlete anymore in the competing sense, but, you know, it kind of became a less healthy relationship with food, much more about control. And then it's evolved into maintenance, health, reducing inflammation, being more mindful now, you know, as I'm in my later 30s of, you know, this is my body for life. Like, I've already got sore joints, you know, how do I kind of offset that stuff? So I think and I see other, you know, younger people in the way they're training and eating. And I was there once, you know, when it was all about, you know, just the performance and the aesthetic. And it is to a degree still, of course, but I think that, not I'm saying I'm old, not too old, but it kind of transitions as you get older towards, you start thinking of your longevity and your health. And I think in the industry as a whole, there's been a huge shift towards that, you know. And I still do plyometric stuff. I still do, you know, some weight training, but the load is less, the amount of it I do per week is less. There's definitely more recovery sessions thrown in as well. Put a lot of time now into things like cryotherapy, vibration training, which I've done for many years with power play and things like that. So, and I think the world, I don't know, maybe I'm in a bubble in LA, but I certainly around me and what I see online, I think the world is a little bit more aware of that side of it as well now, and I think there's two things that make me happy. One, that it's now cool to be fit and have an athletic body, because that's healthy. And two, that I think we're thinking a little bit further ahead in terms of our longevity.
Yeah.
Our cellular level, like you were saying as well.
And I think that's where all of sports performance comes from. I come from a wrestling background, amateur collegiate wrestling. I transitioned into powerlifting, and then from there straight into, I was always peripheral on combat sports, working as a wrestler. But then when powerlifting was over, it was into the MMA gyms for another 10 years. During that transition, kind of from wrestling, weight class oriented, right, sucking down as far as possible, but really we look at kind of the power to kg ratio, kind of lean mass ratio and such. And then to powerlifting, it's really the Wilks score once again, trying to be as strong as possible at the lightest possible body mass. MMA, kind of same thing. And I figured out in my mid-20s or so, after being 282 pounds, where I was power so strong, I could literally run through a brick wall. I mean, I couldn't run around it because I'd pass out and have a heart attack, but I could,
What do you weigh now? What's the comparison? So you were 280 then. What do you weigh around now?
I was 280 then. I went all the way down to 170, where I fought a little bit on the Ultimate Fighter and the IFL. So I fought professionally for a few years while I was the head strength coach, MMA coach at Team Quest, Randy's gym back in the 04, 05 through 2010. Ultimate Fighter I did in 2008. So that was I was 280 at like 26 years old or so. And then by the time I was 32, I was down to 170. So right now I'm about 220 or so, but I just went through a lean bulking phase. So I'm like 220 and about 11% body fat. My goal is to be 8% body fat May 1st. Which is, and this is how.
I like the target. There's a date there.
Yeah, Carol, you know how it is. If I don't have a date in front of me, it's like I can be a mess because.
Yeah, we all need a reason, a purpose, a point at which we work towards. Yeah, 100%.
Have to have another summit, in front of us that keeps us on track. Because when I get out of bed, I'm that guy. I need some focus in my day, or I'm going to find something to focus on that kind of might not be well thought out. Not from a bad, I can get busy wasting time in the gym instead of really being progressive. But at my age, 43 years old, it's hard to put on lean tissue anymore. If I can add, 3 pounds of lean muscle tissue in 3 months, 4 months, that's a lot, right?
It is, yeah.
So it's not like when we were kids, we can add, 20 pounds of muscle in a year, no problem. And I had a few years like that too. So now my goalposts certainly changed. So after this lean bulk, if I can keep 2 extra pounds of muscle tissue I didn't have last year while getting my body fat down, man, I'm over the moon. That's a huge high five, right? For me, and it kind of keeps it going. And then we'll see what I want to, morph into over the summer period. So I kind of do my thing in quarters. But that all, being 280 or so, I had health issues. 26 years old, I had sleep apnea, hypertension, high blood pressure, morbidly. I was like 30% body fat. I looked like just a big square. I was benching over 500 pounds, deadlifting over 7. I mean, I was that guy for a little while.
Strong, yeah.
Super strong.
Weight moves weight, right?
Exactly. I love that. You're right.
Yeah. But
for what? For a plastic trophy. It was just so silly. Like my mother and my girlfriend are like the only 2 people in the audience at my which is that's not really what it's for, but just it shows how ridiculous it is. And then when I really started working with the high level athletes, the Olympians, at that level, it really came down to being very specific, very targeted, and none of performance really comes at that macro level. So we really found it all came at the cellular level. If you don't have enough calcium or zinc or magnesium or iodine, phosphorus, I don't care what your protein intake is. I don't care what supplement you're taking. I don't care what steroid you're injecting. If you have these, very specific micronutrient deficiencies, you will not be competing optimally, nor will you live as long. Your career won't be extended as well. You won't get to that next contract. You won't make that bigger payday where you get the extra zero added to your, right? We all want those extra commas added to our paychecks. That's not going to happen because you're going to tear out your shoulder or your hip or your back or something like that in your mid-late 20s before you get to that arc. So kind of the, wrap up the conversation. It's the micro level, the micronutrition. And you really talked on restoration now where, like myself also, much of my training is 45-minute intensity, 3 or 4 days a week, let's say. I also have my low intensity. You mentioned kind of my low walks, my low intensity work. I got a pre-core, like all that stuff. Easier work. I mean, I'm at the sauna and the banya and the cold plunge. I'm hitting yoga classes. I'm foam rolling. I'm doing more of that stuff than I am the hard, intense stuff now.
Yeah, it's the same. I went on a retreat to Costa Rica with the XPT experience run by Laird Hamilton and Gabby Reese. It was with Team Omax, actually.
Was PJ there? PJ Nestler?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, I met PJ. Yeah, really good guy.
Good guy. I did a conference with him a while back, so awesome.
As part of XPT or?
No, it was for the NSCA. We did a strength coaching conference.
Yeah.
A while back. I met him, had dinner with him.
So much. Yeah, from him, the breathing work, the breath work, and Laird is a huge proponent again of it's about longevity. It's about preserving the cells and the body. And we did this, we did the ice bath. And I hadn't done an ice bath since I was competing and I was back at university. So we did the ice bath alternating with the sauna. And I'm not going to lie, it was tough. I haven't, but as everyone watching, we're all doing it one at a time. You want to be strong. You want to be that person that can do it. 3 minutes in the ice bath, into the sauna, back into the ice bath, back into the sauna. We did that twice a day, every day on the retreat, combined with the breath work, combined with underwater swimming, weight training underwater, and just holding the breath, etc. And then the fun stuff, we got to go out and surf with Laird Hamilton and all that kind of fun stuff. But yeah, I came back from that and I was like, I don't really have anywhere to do an ice bath myself. I can put a few ice cubes in the bath, but no, I'm going to achieve. So, doing cryotherapy and, the infrared and stuff like that. And yeah, it's expensive. A lot of it can add up. There's ways to do it yourself, buy a big shovel of ice and, put it in, even just waking up with a cold shower. I did it this morning, so I hadn't done it for a while. Just had showered as normal, then just ice blast, cold blast for, about 2 minutes, turning around in that. Yeah. And it does, it just wakes up the nerve endings and the cells and everything. So yeah, just opening my mind to things like that I hadn't done in a long time was pretty powerful for me. And then just trying to include that more in my day to day. But I realized for some people, there's not access to that kind of thing, or it's not practical to necessarily do on a daily basis, but just finding something that you can do, that in your environment that works for you. Say you work in an office every day, you can't just head off to a cryotherapy. There's probably not one in maybe your part of the country, whatever it is, but just the small things, ice areas that are inflamed, natural anti-inflammatories like ginger and stuff like that I said. But yeah, it's definitely been an evolution of why I train and what I do. And listening to what you said about when you were an athlete and that transition you've been through. I remember when I had to retire from competing track and bobsledding, it was almost like, who am I? What's my purpose? Why am I training? And that's why it kind of became a little bit more about aesthetics and, a little bit obsessive in that, right? So it was like, well, what am I training for? What's my purpose? And you have to have that purpose, whether it's an event, a race, a body weight goal, a body fat percentage goal, whatever it is. And then when I got into sports broadcasting, I felt repurposed again, because although I wasn't competing, I was still surrounding myself with that feeling, that mentality, being able to relate to those that are dieting, not that I've cut weight as such, but dieting to be in shape for what you're doing, performing at the highest level, etc. So even though I'm not the one doing the sport anymore, just being in that environment just gives me a whole nother level of, feeling like the athlete again, and sort of sharing in that same mentality, which has been a big deal for me.
It's you do kind of live off that energy a little bit, right? That fight night energy, or just kind of being around. And in many ways, you're around high level performers, whether they're athletes or business people and entrepreneurs. And, a lot of the other work that you're doing, you're still running in that A-type. So I use say A-type, A-type personalities. We have A-type goals. You're an A-type performer, an A-type individual. So you get done one sport, you're like, now what?
Yeah.
What am I going to do? Because that's the way you're wired. What am I going to do with this competitive energy? And when I say competitive, it's the competitor competes against themselves. You kind of look at other people, you use them as maybe a waypoint along the way. You want to kind of knock people off as you're sprinting, down the track, but it's that internal competition. So it's, well, what's next? And a lot of people listening right now, watching right now, they've had their 4 years of high school football maybe, or cheerleading, and they maybe a little bit of college sports, or maybe none at all. They remember when they were in great shape, but now they're busy. They got the house, they got the job, they got the family. They were sick maybe, and they just got cleared, and they don't know 6 months later how to start being healthy again. But I think the remedy is like you do and like I do, right? Because you're, respectfully, I'm nobody special. I'm just a guy on the planet with 7 billion other humans walking around. You in a way.
Have your purpose. We all have our purpose and our passion.
We do, and we have to. It's like I wake up today. It's like, well, how can I be better today? That's it. And my little post earlier on Instagram, and I basically said, you don't have to be perfect. You just have to each day just be a little bit better, do something better. If you had 3 beers last night, you know what? Maybe have 2. Maybe and I have a lot of clients. I'm like, listen, all right, you're drinking 3 beers a night every single night. Well, why don't you switch to 3 light beers for a week or so? And then why don't you just go then to 2? And then why don't you put it into an 8-ounce glass and then pour the other 4 ounces out? And over 4, 6, 12 weeks even, now it becomes a once or twice a week little treat instead of this daily compulsion. And that's something a lot of people that they maybe to you, or they come to me and they're like, I'm sick of where I am. Cold turkey, I'm going to stop everything. I want to be perfect tomorrow. I want to look like Carolyn Pearce tomorrow. Well, that might not happen. So why don't we just be a better version of you tomorrow? Let's start making better decisions and kind of start that path, because that is where I think maybe you post-career, I spoke, pre-show, I spoke a little bit about your background. So those listening and watching right now have an understanding of, I want to touch on a little bit of that, because I haven't heard, what is it like to be a gladiator? Cool. But actually, I think let's jump into what you kind of said earlier, that it's very cool now. Now you do live in LA. Now LA is, you're in a bubble. I lived in Vegas.
I am in a bubble, yeah.
You're in a bubble.
I'm looking out now. The sun's shining. Looking up at some billboards with the latest movie and whatever coming out, and just been in Equinox, West Hollywood, where there's always celebrities. It's a bubble.
Without getting, because I don't want anybody to know where you live, but kind of what part of LA are you in?
I'm in West Hollywood. Yeah, West Hollywood. So
West Hollywood.
Hollywood, for people that don't know, is situated between Beverly Hills and Hollywood, and it's a very walkable, cool, like neighborhood, if you like, and it's just off Sunset Boulevard, where you've got all the classic comedy stores and restaurants and
it's funny.
Bars, the cool stuff.
My UFC fit days, I would stay in West Hollywood, so I've spent months at a time in West Hollywood. Loved it. And the Voda Spa, maybe or maybe not, Voda, VODA.
VODA. I don't know that. No.
So Voda Spa, it's actually a banya where they have a massive cold plunge there, saunas and hot tubs, juice bar.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll check it out.
And it's co-ed, so bring your man. Go with a friend if that's what you want to do. You can kind of nice little lunch, smoothies, good meal, and kind of But it's a great.
I'm surprised I haven't heard about that. I'm gonna check that out. Yeah, no, but you're right. It is a bubble. It's even what you just said then. You don't get places like that everywhere, right?
No, it's not Omaha, Nebraska. No disrespect to my friends in Omaha, but they're like, not many, green smoothie places out there. Certainly no Equinoxes that I'm aware of.
No, and that's why travel's so hard as well. I was in London before, and London, you can get everything in London as well. London's the most amazing city. It's incredible. And when I travel, sometimes when things are the most difficult for me, and not so much training, I'm always motivated to get some training in, whether it's in the hotel room or the gym, or I can find a spot. But eating wise, I'm a boredom eater if I let myself. And if you put me on a long haul flight and there's no entertainment, or there's not much to do, then I'm just thinking of food all the time. So I know my triggers. I know what I call my domino effect situations, and flying, long travel, delays, things that then put me out of my routine, a definite triggers and tough spots for me. So I've just over the years have like management strategies for when I know I'm in a tough spot. One, there's always snacks in my bag. You'll never find, I mean, I'm in panic mode if I've forgotten to bring snacks in my bag. It's like, I've always got my snacks with me, and, you know,
what are your go-to snacks?
I'm not mentioning this brand because I have any working relationship with them, because I don't, but I love the RX bars. Sure. Because, you know, they've got egg whites and, you know, they're all natural. Nuts, simple bag of nuts and some fruit, whether it's dried fruit or fresh fruit. A little cheese string stick sometimes, just for a little something extra on the go. I love the Celsius drinks as well, just those kind of like got guarana, and again, just natural like mental stimulation as well as kind of physical. So yeah, I'm always, you know, a bottle of water and a ton of snacks in my bag to see me through.
Now, how often do you attempt airplane food on some of these longer trips? Do you actually, will you bring your own, or will you try some of the food being served?
This is what happens. So say I'm flying to London, so it's an 11-hour flight from LA. Yeah. I've packed my snacks.
Sure.
Depending on how that flight goes for me, I can be on it with my snacks and my food up until like hour 7. Yeah. And then sometimes at that point, I'm like, just give me something I just need something. So then I'll take the meal and I'll pick a little bit around it, etc. But you know, I kind of it's damage limitation. I do best I can on a long haul flight. Damage limitation. Don't beat myself up. Drink lots of water. And the next day, I just try and get back onto my.
Yeah, that's actually funny. I like that damage limitation, which is true. You know, because you know, all right, I'll get the meal. I'll pick around it. Ooh, I'm not going to eat that. It looks a little too funky. You know, it's going to jack you. Right, something in the cream sauce maybe might not be the best flight, but you can pick around a few of the other areas. I certainly, very relatable. It's because I'll bring all my meals also, and then 8 hours into maybe flying down to like Australia, right? 14-hour flight. Man, they're serving 2 meals on that flight. It's like, maybe I'm good. And
how much food can you bring on? Like 10 hours later, those boiled eggs aren't going to be tasting too good by the time you get to them. You know what? I liked what you said earlier about perfectionism, and, you know, and it's reminding me of what we're talking about now in terms of damage limitation, because I used to have that perfectionist mentality that if I'd gone wrong, if you like, with my diet and I binged out, it was then like, you know, God, I've got to strip it back and I've got to really restrict, etc. And now, you know, if I have those days where I fall off the wagon a little bit, you know, I'm like, it's okay. It's not the last supper. I don't have to eat everything I've ever wanted to eat today just because I drifted away from my usual plan. You know, it's fine. And tomorrow I just eat normal again. You know, I've come away from that whole, if it's not perfect, it has to be completely bad. And then I have to restrict and punish myself. You know, now for me, if it's not perfect, it's not perfect. You know, tomorrow's a new day, and I just start, I wouldn't skip breakfast. I'll just start with that same meal again and go from there. And just mentally, that's such a relief.
Yeah.
You know, waking up like I used to, knowing I'd consumed so much calories and fat and sugar because I went a little off track. And then that today was going to be, you know, that pressure to then cut it in half when my body's now craving it even more because I've given it that taste of all the sugar and fat. You know, it's such a relief now to say I didn't go too crazy. And so today I don't have to restrict too crazy. You know, it's just keeping that little bit more kind of level, you know. And speak to any of my friends, they will probably think I'm pretty disciplined still in how I eat, but for me it's just I like how I eat. You know, it doesn't feel like punishment, discipline, or whatever. It just feels like a balanced way of eating, and then I can enjoy a meal when I go out. I can enjoy, you know, something that I wouldn't normally eat here and there, but it's a far cry from the kind of yo-yo effect that I've been on and I see so many other people on.
Sure. And that comes with balance, where you have that balanced lifestyle of, you know, you exercise, you look at the recovery areas, you know, kind of, you know, we all work on ourselves, you know, in certain ways of just, you know, self-improvement. But if you do choose to eat an off menu item, it's a choice. It's not a compulsion anymore. It's not, you're not a victim. And a lot of people, they act as if they're victims to the food. Oh, I had to eat that. Somebody put a gun to my head and they forced me, not just the one slice of pizza, but the entire pizza and the breadsticks and the pasta, like, and the chocolate, right? That's because, you know, I've done that too, where I will screw with that. I mean, I already blew my diet. I might as well just go all the way until I fall asleep, and then I'll fix it tomorrow. We've all been there before, but the ability to kind of have, oh, that looks great. Let me have a little taste, a little treat. No big deal. Right back on. I eat my next meal the way I'm supposed to. I wake up, I get my workout the next day. and it's not even a glitch, and I don't see it anywhere,
Yeah.
right? You don't wake up and see it kind of stuck to you, which is where the self-loathing typically kicks
I
in.
know. And then the vicious cycle continues. I was told it was actually a friend of mine from the past that said to me, whenever you feel like you're going to, you see food that's, high calorie, and I hate to call food bad or good, whatever, but food, you'd consider, not ideal to eat, always, before you kind of go down that wormhole of binging and whatever, just play out the movie in your head, because at the time it's gratifying, it's an instant feeling of sugar rush, etc. But if you say to yourself, yeah, okay, this is the movie, I'm going to eat it, it's going to feel good, I'm going to want more, I'm going to keep eating it, then I'm going to start to feel a bit sick, then I'm going to start to feel a bit shit about myself, then I'm going to go to bed sluggish, then I'm going to wake up and feel like, oh man, I've got to eat super clean today. And at that point, when you've played out that movie in your mind, it doesn't sound as appealing when you get to that process,
I like that
point. So you can almost like rewind and say, well, okay, if it's a conscious choice, like you say, and I can have one cookie, one bit of pizza, whatever it is, fine, do it. But if I feel like this is going to set me off and down that wormhole, then maybe I just say no now, maybe I just stop that pattern right now. And that's because I'm identifying it's going to be an emotional eating practice, not a physical one. A lot of people say to me all the time, I get judged on what I eat a lot. I think because of the industry I'm in, maybe the way I look, people are inquisitive, and at times in the past, I've always felt like we could, all be out at dinner and everyone's watching what I'm eating. If I have some bread or dessert, it's kind of like, oh my God, I didn't think you eat that kind of thing. And then suddenly I'm like, oh my God, should I be eating this kind of thing? And it used to bother me. Everyone else was eating happily, and there's me being kind of like scrutinized and judged, and it comes with the territory of giving advice and having that knowledge and doing what I do. But I just got to that point where I just thought, I'm going to make conscious decisions about things. If I want to have it, I do. If I don't, or if it's necessity because there's no other food and I'm on a plane, fine, just don't beat myself up about it. But yeah, just playing out that movie was quite a valuable practice for me to start getting a better perspective. And that's why sometimes people will say, well, just have a bite, it's a chocolate dessert, just have a bite. And I'm like, no, I'm good. They're like, well, why won't you just have one bite? I'm like, well, right now how I feel, one bite is going to lead to me wanting more, having the whole thing, probably going home and just that sweet tooth will carry over. So I don't want one bite. I'd rather wait till Friday when I'm going out and I'm going to have what I want to have, whether it be a dessert or a pizza or whatever. So it's just knowing your own body and mind and your own triggers, and not letting other people sometimes sway you in one direction or another.
Yeah. And that's where the healthy relationship with food comes in. I can have a slice of pizza. I can have a sandwich or a treat, as something sweet if I want to, because I've worked my ass off. Crushed my workout today. Like, I ate really well. I feel great. And it becomes a conscious choice to do that. I'm intentional in choosing that, which once we take accountability and responsibility for the choices, that guilt, the self-loathing, all that stuff goes away. I'm choosing to do this. No problem. It's not a big deal. It's like, I'm choosing to spend my money on a trivial item because I want it and I worked hard to make the money. I'm going to get it. It's not my mortgage payment or whatever else, not the kids' college fund, right? I've built that little slush fund to buy those, little trinkets. For me, it's usually random gym equipment. That's kind of where I blow my money. So you had said something earlier. I wanted to touch on this because I find it interesting that over the last 10 years or so, being fit has now become accepted, especially with women. Women, for a while, it was like a muscular woman was not respected to the level that they are today. It was really the cardio bunnies. Women should be doing aerobics classes and yoga and treadmill workouts, really shouldn't be in the weight room with the men. Now, you were a trendsetter in many ways because you've had a very athletic, muscular physique. Really, I mean, your whole career, as far back as I can find online, you've always had this amazing athletic physique. And that's something that really I can tell an athlete's body to a fitness competitor's body very easily. There's a very distinct different look. And also there's a different mentality between the two. But where you were, let's say, and maybe I will give credit. I don't often give CrossFit a lot of credit, but I will give CrossFit the credit to helping to herald in this era of very powerful, strong looking women, and women who now have the I don't want to say courage to diminish a woman, but maybe not being a female, the ability for a woman to now embrace that, yes, you can pick up weight, you can train, you can get stronger and build these, shapely physiques that are, from a male perspective, much more appealing to see a curvy, strong, powerful woman, because I know how hard it is to build a physique like that. Like, that's someone who's going to work their ass off to look that certain way, instead of just the one meal a day. I call it the cigarette and donut diet, right? Kind of like the high school cheerleader diet. I'll get in trouble for saying that, but I've worked with tons of them, so I understand that was the mentality. Treadmill work, some aerobics, eat like 100-calorie snack pack. I work with a lot of the pageant ladies. So disordered their eating programs, lots of
come a long way. Yeah, it's come a real long way. And when I was competing, when I was younger and I was competing, and I always had it. I think my mum said I ran before I walked. I was always an athlete, it's just always been the way she took me to ballet. I just thought getting to the end of the hall the fastest was the best way to do it. There was no elegance or whatever. But there was a distinct period where I was in my late teens and I had a little six pack and I had little biceps. And I didn't like it. I thought, I'm doing this because I want to be the fastest athlete out there. But I remember thinking, when I give up athletics, I can get rid of this six pack. My arms can look like the other girls again. And I remember at that time, I genuinely thought that, like, I was happy with my body because it was fit for purpose and what I was doing. Yeah. But I remember thinking, I can get rid of this when I stop. And then
because of the societal pressures to kind of look
young and flexible. Yeah. And then I actually went through a detraining phase. I remember I'd kind of really stopped lifting weights, and I was kind of probably doing a bit more of, I had the knee injury, which ended my athletic career, bone on bone. So I kind of thought, you know what, one, I was giving my body a rest, and two, I was like, I just don't need this muscle anymore. And it was at that time that they started auditioning for gladiators, like to see the revival of gladiators, UK gladiators. And I didn't have an agent at that time. I was doing little bits of sports modeling here and there, but a colleague of mine at Powerplay, he was like, they're bringing gladiators back, the show. And I've told this story a few times, and I was like, oh my God, that was my favorite show as a kid. Like, I used to say to my mum, I'm going to be a gladiator one day, and she'd look at me like, whatever. And he was like, you should apply to be a contestant. And I just laughed at him. I was like, I never wanted to be a contestant. I wanted to be a gladiator, And then literally a week later, I get a call from the production company saying that my agent had been in touch. Well, I didn't have an agent, so my friend had pretended to be my agent and contacted them and got me an audition. And suddenly I was like, oh my God, I haven't lifted weights for however long. My arms had slimmed out. I didn't look like a gladiator. And suddenly I just was like, gee, I need to look like a gladiator. I've got auditions to get through, and thank goodness for muscle memory, because geez, I just went back to that gym, hit it hard, ended up being a gladiator, like back in that whole, I want to be fit and strong. But it was actually during the filming of that show, and we were doing so much press and media, we were on these billboards, and it was actually during the filming and the PR for that show that we were being embraced for being athletic, muscular women. We were in all these magazines where they were interviewing us about our workout routines, how we eat, and how we looked. And that was a huge shift. Like, it was in the UK, in magazines, on television. And
what year was this approximate?
So this was so it was 10 years ago, 12 years ago. Yeah, 10, 12 years ago. And suddenly people were, girls were saying, I want to get a six pack like you, or your arms. I said, and I was suddenly like, this is, wow, I'm going to run with this. This is now desirable. This is now what people want to be with. And, then onwards, and coming out to here in the US and going into the gyms in America and just seeing women that weren't necessarily athletes, but I'm like, go girl, you're building muscle, you're putting in the work, you want to be stronger and fitter. And like you say, the influence of CrossFit, and I think social media as well, then celebrating those bodies. Because I was, strong in body, strong in mind is like a huge philosophy of me. When I'm hitting it hard in the gym and I feel good, like mentally, I feel like I can accomplish anything. Yeah. It's just that way I feel. But I still, and when you said from a man's perspective, it's men like and embrace that. Not all. There's a lot of men that are still intimidated by that.
Only weak men don't like it.
Yeah, and I'll get the odd comment here and there saying, why are you ruining your body with those weights? And you're pretty, but you look masculine, and not so much. There was a little bit back in the day, and it's literally hardly at all now, but you still get that odd comment, and it's either people threatened or it's not that they're desirable to them. That's fine. We're all different, but I just feel proud to have been part of a movement of women from, you know, like I say, 10, 12 years ago that were being celebrated for being athletic and fit and strong, you know. And whether you're now doing it for just aesthetics, and like you say, you can tell the difference between a gym type body, you know, gym built body and an athlete, doesn't matter, you know, that the end goal is you're getting fit, you're getting strong, you're working on nourishing your body the best way. For me, if you can be functional with that as well, and I still like to, inside, I'm still an athlete inside. I'm not running track, but that's my mentality. You know, sometimes my ego and my competitiveness get the better of me. I'll do things in the gym and I'll walk back and be like, yeah, that wasn't smart. You know, now my knee hurts, but it's in me. I still want to be able to test myself and push my limits and perform, you know. So that's why I was drawn to the sports broadcasting world. I was like, how do I still get my fix of being around athletes and the mentality of the entrepreneurs and the athletes that are giving it their all? I think it helps my job, you know. When I haven't fought, but I've competed, I know what it's like to win and lose. So when I'm talking to somebody that's been in either of those positions, I feel it, you know. I get nervous before. I'm sure you do for your athletes, you know, because you're part of that process and you can relate to the journey, you know. And
how did you make the jump from competitor, you know, competitive athlete, injury, kind of, you know, the career, athletic careers eventually end, you transition to an entertainer, which, you know, sports entertainment as a gladiator, but then you've transitioned again as a sports broadcaster. Now you have other fitness endeavors and modeling and other kind of things that still run peripheral, but really jumping into, because that's how we met, you as a sports broadcaster. You were working the UFC events. That's how we became friendly and kind of developed from there. I learned your backstory, and oh my God, you know, you're a heralded athlete and you're right and have these great accomplishments. But really, how do you make that jump? Because not many individuals, talented as they may be in a certain world, can't make that jump. I mean, now these are three very distinct career paths that you've been able to very successfully enter into and then thrive. So how does that happen?
Yeah, a lot of what I feel I've achieved and done since has come through a setback or a knockback, for example. So, you know, when I could no longer be an athlete, I still wanted to be in that kind of world. And I did gladiators and I got a taste for television. I was like, I like this. I like, you know, I felt like I was performing still. You know, you're on camera, you've got a job to do, you know, you've got to live on the spot deliver, you know. So I did series 1 of Gladiator and they didn't bring me back for season 2. I was a baddie character. They wanted more good characters. Who knows, whatever the reason, that's television, but it broke my heart. You know, that was crushing to me, you know, and the show didn't go more than the second series anyway. It was no loss in the end, but I just went into this mode of sometimes those adversities like pushed me harder to do something else. And I thought, okay, how can I be on television? I've got a taste for it now. I've got my name out there, but I want to do sport. How do I combine and marry those two things? And I kind of found myself, I've always enjoyed watching World's Strongest Man, and I knew a few of the strongmen I'd done some kind of fitness events with. And I was like, who hosts it? Like, who's the host for these things? They're like, well, a little bit here, a little bit there, people. Why don't I introduce you to someone? We could always do with someone that knows the sport and is passionate about it. So I just started doing the Strongman Champions League. You know, they just gave me a mic. They just gave me a mic and gave me a chance. And same for a supplement company called LA Muscle that ran an online little TV channel. And they just said, yeah, take the camera crew out, go to any of these expos you want to go to, Rugby Expo, Motor Show, take a camera, produce it, do it. So it was all just kind of being given some free rein to just go out and ask questions and kind of self-learn, really. And then I did some formal training. Then I thought, well, I actually love this. I want to learn the intricacies of it all, put a show reel together, etc. I got a manager. And I guess the big break after doing World's Strongest Man on Channel 5 in the UK was joining BT Sport. They just launched as a channel in the UK. But again, I wanted to do MotoGP and they didn't choose me for MotoGP. They're like, we've got the UFC. We think you'd be a good fit for that. And I was like, oh, okay. UFC. Yeah, I kind of know a little bit about that. It's cool, but all right, then let's give this a go. And I just fell in love with it and the sport and the athletes and the show and bless you and everything we were doing. So for me, I then, I just started doing UFC. Then UFC Fight Pass took me on for the European events. Then Fox took me on, and then I gave me the opportunity to move to America. And now I correspondent for BT Sport out here. I host the Professional Fighters League. So it's all just kind of from this desire, from maybe not getting what I wanted in what I was doing. I just went about doing it myself and just seeking out opportunities and learning on the job. And BT Sport threw me in at the deep end, really. I've never hosted a live show with teleprompter, talk back, studio audience, etc. Kind of like paddling like crazy underneath while
Yeah. And how long did it take to be on that set from when you first started with World's Strongest Man, let's say?
Like 3 years. It was 3 years of doing,
Wow.
2 to 3 years of doing, like, online presenting and, bits here and there, and World's Strongest Man. And I did some stuff on Eurosport doing commentary for the CrossFit Games,
Sure.
as well as some motorsport. So it was kind of just, I'd go into Eurosport, like Tim Afton, the producer at the time, I'd just call us like, can I just come in? And I'd just sit in the background of the commentary booth just for hours, just watching and learning, asking them annoying questions. And, even with Fox, I remember I took myself out to Vegas and I said, let me just follow Ariel Helwani around. Ariel was super cool. And I paid my own way out there. And I was like, yeah, I'm just going to just let me be backstage. Just let me watch how the best do it. So, when
And they allowed that, no problem with that, huh?
Pardon?
They allowed that, no issues?
Well, they'd already wanted me on board. So they'd already said they were going to take me on board to do the European events and, cover some of the EMEA events. So I think, I'd taken myself out there to watch the fights, and they were just like, yeah, of course, just
why not?
He's the team, just see what goes on. And everyone was super kind. And yeah, I just asked a lot of questions. So it's been a real mixture of coming from an athlete background, just really just pushing and putting myself out there and prospecting and learning the craft on the job through some formal training, bit of luck, seeking out opportunities, and just not letting the setbacks kind of put me back, really.
So it's really, just putting yourself out there and trying it. You said, a lot of, paddling, underwater. Is that how it goes?
And they say it's like a swan. Like, you kind of look on the surface, like you just seem like you're doing okay, but underneath, like the wheels are turning, the legs are turning. And there's some difficult moments. And I'm sure, like, the fans of this sport are incredibly critical, and you develop a tough skin in this industry. And you just learn you can't please everybody, and you just, do the best job you do, and etc. And that's again where I've learned to let go of the perfectionist mentality. I used to beat myself up if I said one name wrong or maybe fumbled my way through something a little bit. And now I'm just like, you make a joke of it there and then, and you move on.
Yeah. Give them nothing to go with, right? If you own it, what are they going to say? They're, I have a tenuous relationship also with certain fans or audiences, but that just shows that, you're being critiqued because you're out there doing the work.
Yeah, exactly.
You're not out there. Nobody's talking about you, and that's okay.
And at the end of the day, I know I love my job. I know I put the work in. The bits people don't see, to do a 5-minute interview, I've been following the whole week of interviews and research and just making sure I'm studying every element of everything, and you might get your 5 minutes to do an interview with that person.
Yeah.
And, I've always believed in just putting in the hard work and just really pushing towards what you want to do. And I found myself in a place where I'm combining my two passions, the fitness health world combined with sport, primarily fighting, boxing, UFC, PFL at the moment. Hopefully, more to come as well. But, I'm just like, I get up every day and it's different. And I get to live in this world work-wise that, I feel so passionate about. So I feel lucky. I do feel lucky as much as I don't necessarily believe it's just luck. I've worked hard to be lucky. I guess the word is feel privileged that I get to do this.
Nice to be appreciative of the success, right? You so we're a little reflective. You're a little reflective on it, but at the same time, to be proud of the accomplishments, because you're the one who had to put in the work to get there, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of other people that are out there that I'm sure are a little envious maybe of your position, but maybe they didn't work as hard or develop the relationships and the reputation that allows your work to put you in these positions and these roles.
The relationship part's important as well. Like, in fact, nearly all of the work I do has come about from personal relationships I've built with people along the way, and people want to work with good people, or people that they like, people that they, know they're in good hands with. I've always wanted to make sure what I do makes it easier for other people, and appreciate all the people behind the scenes and what goes on. Because even if you're the one on camera, there's a whole team that's responsible for you being able to do what you do.
Yeah.
And it's fun. I thrive with uncomfortable. I thrive with pressure. I thrive with the unknown. I kind of live for that. And sometimes too much. Sometimes I'm always seeking the next kind of challenge and don't necessarily be present enough in the existing challenge I'd already worked towards. I'm getting better at that. I'm definitely getting better at that with age. But yeah, I do I'm at my best when my back's up against the wall and there's pressure and, you know, we don't know what's going on. There's the earpiece is going and everyone's shouting, I don't know where you're meant to be and things are changing, you know.
Yep.
Love that stuff.
That's the athlete in you, right?
Yeah.
Ready to bite down and go.
Yeah, for sure. But I have to be passionate about it. I'm not that person if something doesn't excite me. I'm not the competitor. I'm not, you know, as driven if it doesn't spark some kind of excitement within me. So it's just, you know, just you got to do what you love, and if you don't feel like you are, just seek out what that might be. You know? I get messaged a lot from some younger girls or guys as well about, you know, how I got into the industry and how to go about it and whatever. And I think a lot of people get a little stuck with the whole, I need a manager, and, you know, I need to go away to university and do this degree and whatever for it, and those things will help. But at the end of the day, I'm just like, be the person people have in mind when they come to, you know, don't be annoying, but put your hand up enough times that people kind of think of you when opportunities come about, you know, and work hard and be passionate about what you do.
It's funny that proximity, be the person that people think of first, right? Regardless of what, you know, a lot of people, they focus on academics, right? What degree do you have?
Yeah.
I know a lot of people, a lot of stupid people with really high degrees. Not somebody I think of when I need a go-to person to fill a hole, right? To fill a job. I don't care what school or classroom they sat in. It doesn't matter.
Depends on what job you're going for, of course. But you know, I didn't do a journalism degree. You know, I picked up a microphone. I was smart enough from what I had done education-wise, and, you know, I did some courses. You know, I wanted to learn from people that were doing it. But I think the best things to learn on the job, learn from experience, and learn from people that you admire. You know, I'd watch, you know, hours of tape of other presenters and hosts whose style I liked and who asked good questions, and, you know, seemed to be able to develop a good rapport with the people they spoke to. And actually that's something I found, you know, I've been able to do with majority of the fighters as well, is develop a good rapport so that we can, and for me, I want to be talking off camera before we even go on camera. We're not just a cold, let's wait, let's start the interview. I want us to already be talking so that when the camera guy says go, we're just picking up, you know?
Sure. It's very smart. That's a pro trick right there.
Yeah.
Right? So a lot of times, and I'll be with athletes, let's say, or even, you know, myself to a limited degree, where you're going to go on air, the athlete's going on air, and the interviewer, the journalist, is staring at their phone, they're talking to their producer, maybe they're watching something else, and the interview starts cold. And you can probably see it when it happens, when you're just watching TV, right? You can probably pick up on it. Awkward, uncomfortable. There's no, like you say, to having that rapport. It's not a good viewing experience from the viewer's perspective.
No, I know. We do sometimes when we do the sit down, like longer form interviews that I'll do for BT Sport, the UK broadcaster I work with, and, you know, we're in a pretty sterile looking room. They've set up the cameras, etc. And what people don't know is, like, entire UFC staff are standing behind the camera, making sure that the fight is okay. The managers are there, the family's there. You know, they want to know that you're gonna, you know, not say anything you shouldn't say or ask. And, you know, you've seen the setup, etc. So you're conducting that interview with all these eyes listening and on you. So, you know, when the sound guys, you know, put in the mic on, that's when I'll use that opportunity to talk to the family, talk to the manager, just kind of try and make everyone feel comfortable, fighter included. You know,
that's important.
Just talk about stuff not fighting, the family, what they're wearing, you know, or did you just see that, you know, yesterday, and then kind of go into the thing. So sometimes what people see on camera comes about because of the environment you create, you know, with a person.
So without naming names, what's the worst experience you've had with an athlete as the interviewer?
There's a couple of fighters who, when they're cutting weight, you know, and you're doing those final, like, day before the weigh-in type interviews that just don't give you a lot. You know, there's a couple who are nice as pie, really sweet people when at any other time, or even, you know, earlier during the fight week, and then I'll suddenly be like, oh no, you don't want to talk to me now. I can pick up on this. I'm getting yes, no, the eyes are off, etc. So there's a couple of fighters that would do that. And, you know, and I think in the beginning I was in Tokyo at the Saitama Arena, famous Saitama Arena, and I was doing that one for Fox a few years back now, and a particular fighter, just, he didn't know who I was. It was the first time we'd ever interviewed and whatever, and I didn't feel that respect, until the next, I think that was during the weigh-in show. And then the next day I spoke with his coach that night, and I spoke to his coach and we were talking about my bobsled background and everything I did. And he must have said that to this particular fighter. So the next day when I actually interviewed him, before we even started, he was asking me all the questions. And it was like a whole different energy, you know? So it just comes back to, I think, having a relationship or a rapport with the people that you're talking with makes a big difference. But in the sport we're in, people are weight cutting, you get a very different person.
It's tough.
To the one you got in the presser the month before or even earlier in the week. But and sometimes just when you don't have that rapport, I think it makes it a little bit more challenging. But no one's ever been like rude or, you know, in fact, I'd say fighters are some of the most embracing, nicest people to interview across a lot of sports that I've worked in, from soccer, where they can often be a little bit more aloof and not really wanting to be in this environment. I think the UFC and fight sports in general have done a really good job of wanting their fighters to embrace the fans and be approachable to the fans, and, you know, not these elusive creatures that you can't get anywhere near, you know. And I think that shows a lot in the time they give us as you know, the broadcast team and interviewers, etc.
I think the fighters they're still appreciative of the opportunity to be on air and to get their stories told. The sport's not so old, nor are they making so much money that they have that entitlement attitude yet, as I'm sure some of the footballers and some of the others. It's a different.
And that's it. It is in a sense of entitlement. But even some of the fighters that are making big money, you know, something I'll always say about Conor McGregor, for example, who I've interviewed since he started in the UFC, is that Conor's, and Ronda Rousey was like this as well, the answers never feel like a stock answer that they're giving to everybody. The answers always feel like they're listening to your question and something thought-provoking is coming out of them. And Conor in particular is very personable in the way and that's because I have a good, you know, working relationship with Conor, if you like, as well. You know, I've interviewed him for a long time. So it comes down to that rapport again, as I said. But I think even the ones that are earning a lot of money still realize that their pay-per-views, their brand, everything comes down to their relationship with the media and what they put out there, you know. And it's smart because, you know, more and more fighters realize if they talk, they get the fights, they get the money. You know, so we as media are their way of doing that.
You made a good point that the organization, the UFC in particular, is, I think, very good at allowing the athletes and encouraging the athletes to be very accessible to the media and take these opportunities and to really put themselves out there a little bit to build up their brands. Because, I mean, it all funnels back to the UFC's cash register at the end of the day, but it also, the athletes gain benefit from that also, which maybe in some other sports that might not happen as much.
Yeah, of course. And, you know, I'm working with the Professional Fighters League now as well, the PFL. And what I love, like because we have a roster of fighters that fight so regularly during a season. So the story evolves. Like, a big part of what we do is storytelling, you know, because that fighters fought, if they make it to the final 5 times in a season. So we're, you know, their families, their team, everyone, we're a part of that journey with them, you know. And you see them come back from a loss and they come back, they get the points, they get to the playoffs, and then it's a knockout situation. So that's actually, as a broadcaster myself, storytelling is one of my favorite things to do. I like asking questions. I like to share the background of where people come from. We have one fighter, David Machado, that will not get on a plane. So he drove from South Dakota to New York for New Year's Eve for the championship final, you know, and we might be going international this year. I think he was even planning his boat trip, how he's going to get on a cruise ship and get across to wherever we might go. So I think that kind of stuff. So then when you watch that fight, so you're like, I know that person's story, you know. Or Ray Cooper III, another welterweight of ours, whose, you know, dad was a fighter that beat Jake Shields and then lost to Jake Shields, and then Ray wanted to come back and be the one to beat Jake Shields in the league to revenge for his dad. And, you know, so that side of it's exciting to me, you know, and that relies on them talking to us, and it relies on us sharing their story with the public.
Yeah, and I think the storytelling of the athletes is very important to get the fans to really engage and go on that journey, right? You want the fans to show up because they know, you know, Ray Cooper III's story, because they understand and they're kind of rooting for, or a la Tito Ortiz, rooting against the individual, maybe. Well, you need the bad guy. You need the good and the bad guys, you know, the heel and the baby face, if you will.
Well, that's what made the, you know, after the first Ultimate Fighter, right? That's what kind of made the UFC, because suddenly it was, you know, the personalities and the story, and then obviously the event itself. But Yeah, I think, and that's what got me passionate about MMA in the first place, was meeting the fighters and learning their story.
Sure.
You know, I think, you know, when you get a vested interest in, it's not just two dudes or women throwing down, it's, you know, what are they fighting for? And one of our taglines in the PFL is, what do you fight for? You know, it's on the steps as you walk up into the cage. It's a big part of the brand. And I think that's an important message, fighting aside, just in life. Like, what are you fighting for? You know, what is your purpose? What's your reason? What's your intent? Etc. I think when it comes, sort of circling back to everything we've spoken about, nutrition, training, you have to have a strong enough why as to why you're going to do it.
Absolutely.
And if you don't have a why, find one, you know, because it's going to be a tough journey if there's no real purpose or goal to what you're doing.
There's no set point. There's no anchor. There's no direction. Without that why, you're just kind of floating, you know.
Yeah.
You won't be as successful without it. Right, you won't be as focused and follow the steps necessary to get where you're going. And oftentimes people fall far off path, and they get themselves into trouble. They go backwards instead of forwards.
Yeah, I had a period a couple of years ago, and I've always been, you know, we're talking about this A-type and a driven person, and it didn't last too long, but for a good several months, I kind of lost my passion a little bit. I kind of lost, nothing I was doing was exciting me the way it had done before, and I was going through the motions, and obviously I can bring my A game to anything I do. But yeah, I had a period where, I guess you'd call it a mild form of depression or just something, I don't know. But it was definitely a period where I lost my why. You know, it's just a lot of things I did felt a little meaningless or pointless, or what's the bigger picture behind this? And there was no real snapping out of it or waking up one day and it was just kind of riding it out, really. Just kind of riding it out, continuing to do what I do, like surrounding myself with more inspiring people, or people that maybe were doing things ahead of the game from me, that kind of pulled me back into that person that wants to drive again. So I always think, if you are struggling with, you know, what is your why and your purpose, you know, just get yourself around people that know it, that have it, that, you know, found theirs, even if for you it's just a short period of feeling a little bit lost for a while, you know.
Yeah, that's actually very insightful. That's a great point. You know, even while you're trying to figure yours out, be around people that have theirs, that are working towards theirs, to get caught up in that energy, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it might not be because theirs is the same as yours, but it might be their energy or their drive towards their purpose that gets you back on that track. We say it with everything: diet, training, like surround yourself with like-minded people. You know, if you're in a relationship with someone who eating healthily and living a clean, active lifestyle is not a factor, it's going to be pretty hard for you every day to get up and eat good food and go to the gym when that other person's saying, you know, stay watch a movie, or, you know, just have some pizza. You know, who we surround ourselves, the environment we surround ourselves in. You know, even for me, the weather around me, you know, just having sunshine. You know, the UK, love the place, it's my home, but grey skies most days, it's you know.
Do you identify more as a California girl or as a London, UK girl?
At my root, I feel British, 100%. I feel British. You know, I go home and suddenly the humor, the way, because every day I'm reminded that I'm British here, because I'm questioned on everything I do and say, and how I sound. But I think I always felt like I'd have a place here. Growing up, I could always see myself here. Just I think how I enjoy my life and lifestyle suits being in this environment a lot better. You know, just the outdoor life, the sunshine, the kind of focus on being active and healthy, I think is definitely suited more to the kind of California life. But at the heart of it, I'm sarcastic. I'm the way a lot of British people are.
And do you see yourself staying in the States, kind of, you know, living through retiring in the States and that, or do you see like, no way, eventually I'll go back home and settle at home?
Well, some of it's out of my control. We have visas, which we have to convince them to renew. I'm applying for my green card right now. I see myself here for the foreseeable future, for sure. Yeah. I almost find it would be quite hard to live full-time back in the UK now after having experienced life as I know it here. I think I see myself kind of like between the two. I feel like I always want a base here, but I see myself spending a little bit. I mean, I go back to the UK 4 times a year, but I see myself maybe spending a few more extended periods as time goes on, as my parents get older, you know, that kind of thing. But no, this is a good home feeling here in LA. For sure.
How hard is it to navigate that whole visa process? Is it Is it a 6-month visa? Is it, do you have to go back and touch British soil, or go up to Canada and just get out of the States for a day? So I have a few athletes who have similar situations.
Yeah, it's different for everyone. I'm on what's called an O1 visa, which is an entertainment industry visa. I'm on my second one. They run for 3 years. So I'm kind of midway through my second one. Now I'm applying for a green card, which gives me permanent residency, because I'm considered a non-resident working visa holder. So I can live here and work, but I'm not a resident.
Okay.
If I get my green card, it's a 10-year residency.
Okay.
So that's obviously the next step, but it's got a lot harder.
Yeah.
For example, I applied for this green card 18 months ago, and we're still just in that kind of mid-phase process. So it's become increasingly more difficult to live here, as it is for people to want to live in the UK. You know, I hear that as well. So
Sure.
yeah, but it's nerve-wracking. You set up your life, your people, your home, everything in a country, and you know, someone could decide that we will no longer grant you the right to be here. So
yeah, that's a little.
I just got to convince my boyfriend to marry me now, if all goes pear-shaped.
There you go. And boyfriend, whom I've never met, a handsome, strapping young man that you guys have been together for a few years now, it seems.
Yeah, a couple of years, coming up a couple of years. Yeah.
Right. I saw your beautiful photos and holidays.
Here in Los Angeles. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, he trains hard. He probably trains harder than I do, to be honest. He doesn't work in the fitness world. He's a writer, actor, but he used to play football, high school, and just loves sport and fitness as well. I've made him he's teaching me football, as in American football, and I've made him a huge fight fan. So
okay, fair. And I saw you guys just completed or just released a workout program together.
Yeah, well, I roped him into it, so he took part. He was a good sport. I've got a series called Limitless on TV.fit. So it's an app that you subscribe to, and there's all different series. And mine's a 60-day series called Limitless. And the brief was create the hardest, toughest P90X style workout that suits that's kind of emulates your style of training. So it's 60 days, every day is a new workout with 1 day off. And I've got MMA madness, I've got strength, I've got military boot camp, I've got a yoga flow for that recovery day, and it's tough. So he and my training partner Jen, and Jen's commander of the American Legion, former athlete, like complete badass. Jason's a fit guy. They took part in it with me, and they were tough cookies. They got through it, and the people that are doing it, the feedback is it's hard, but it's just 20 minutes. 20 minutes a day for 60 days, and the transformations we've seen, the feedback's been really good. So that's
TV.fit is where they can find it, and it's called Limitless.
Yeah. And then I have a lot of workouts on the FitOn app as well, FITON, and it's a free app. And that's where you go if you want to like cherry pick workouts. So, you know, there's myself and I think 11, 12 other trainers, from yogis to Pilates experts. My workouts are the more high intensity style stuff, like strength style training. And you can just go and get your quick hits, 10-minute workouts, 10, 20, 30, whatever it is. And work out with your favorite trainer. So between the two, I've been just doing what I love, creating content, filming, programming and stuff. So it's been,
how do you like creating? So it's one thing, as you know, to create a workout for yourself to do in the gym. Completely other beast to create a workout to demonstrate for other people to follow along. The cadence, the timing, the cueing, all of these setups. So little bit like, do you enjoy that process, or is it more of a love-hate relationship?
No, I love it. I love it.
Cool.
I genuinely enjoy like just starting with a blank piece of paper, you know, just either on the rooftop here or in the gym, whatever, just start moving. And I have so many go-to workouts that I do anyway. I do a lot of body weight or just, you know, set of dumbbells. So it's just, I like to create a workout that has a good flow. Like you're not constantly, got to get up again, got to get down again. It's like you're transitioning between, you know, the lower level, the higher level. I use a rotation system a lot where you're constantly either doing multi-muscle moves or changing muscle groups. So the recovery time's really short, you know, and mixing up, you know, the plyo stuff with static holds. You know, I just like playing around with movement and, you know, what really works the muscles in different planes and different angles. So when I get told we're filming again in a month's time, it's like, great. Okay. Let me put pen to paper. I'll rehearse it. I'll practice it. I'll test it out on a whole range of fit and not so fit friends and, you know, people in my life. And then when it comes to film it, it's a skill. You got to
you got to perform it to a camera, and you got to pretend there's people following it, and and just bring a lot of energy. And when we film Limitless, we film 60 days in 2 days. So you get to the end of day 2 and you're still filming that last workout as if it's a whole fresh day for somebody else, you know? So
how many workouts did you film each day? How many are there?
So there's 6, 12. I think we did around 12 a day, 12, 20-minute workouts a day.
Yeah, which is brutal.
Yeah.
Right? Because most people will do one 20-minute workout and be like, oh, I'm done. I don't know if I'll be able to do it tomorrow.
I felt bad for Jen and Jason because I'm talking as well. Like, I can't physically do every step, every beat. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to communicate with you. So there's moments I step back and they've got to keep going. And I'm just like, oh, okay, let's, hips down. And I just go into coach mode. And in my mind, I'm like, I'm taking a break right now.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But I do as much of it as I can whilst talking to camera. But I have friends that teach classes day in, day out, and I have so much respect for the fact they do it. They're talking the whole way through it, the energy they bring to every session. I build up to do it once every quarter or twice every quarter, and they're doing these things day in, day out. So it's a skill. There's a lot of those in the fitness industry that they don't understand how context it actually is to be a one-on-one trainer, a group fitness trainer, to be an on-camera, personality or trainer. These are just very specific skill sets to be done well. Well, I relate it again to performing. You plan, you prepare, you rehearse, and you perform. Same as an athlete, same as a entertainer, a television, actress, actor, personality, whatever it is. So again, it's the stuff that I enjoy doing. Yeah.
So now, what's next for you? What do you have going on right now? What's next? And then, of course, we'll direct people where they can find you and work out with you.
Well, I just got the good news that I'm coming back for season 3 of the PFL. So awesome. We kick off that. Yeah, we kick off on ESPN. I think it's May 20th. And we're not sure exactly where the first, I'm not sure I can say exactly where the first show is yet. That's still to be announced. But yeah, we have 10 shows in the season leading to the championship New Year's Eve. $1 million prize for every winner. So can't wait to get stuck in with the team, with Randy Couture and Sean O'Connell and Lillian Garcia in the cage. Great team. And then April, I'm filming a new series for TV.fit. So I'm working on some new content for them. I do a lot with PowerPlate, the vibration training technology. We've launched all our targeted vibration devices that, like the vibration guns, pulse, etc. So more content coming people's way, more time on camera, talking sport and doing what I love. So yeah.
With the PowerPlate, you've been with PowerPlate for a while now.
Yeah, I think 16 years.
Which
long time.
That's a very long period of time. But also where that company's gone over that time. Right?
Yeah, I just love the technology from day one. The principle of using vibration to activate muscles, to increase blood flow, to help with rehabilitation, to increase performance in athletes. It's just, to me, it's still so unknown as to the potential of what vibration technology can do. And just seeing how the companies evolve the product, the way in which we work, like I say, from health to performance, and then just bringing out the new products as well, the targeted vibration devices. So they're a great team. They're innovative. I like being part of something where a certain amount of education comes with our product. You can't just show someone a PowerPlate and they don't necessarily, some do, but most people are still a little unsure what you do. So I just love that process of showing people what you can really achieve from training with vibration in terms of muscle mass, in terms of blood flow and circulation, recovery, rehabilitation, stability. And then at the end, I teach a lot of our master trainer accredited courses. I'm part of the board of fitness directors for them. And the best thing for me is when people go away, they're like, wow, I can do that with that client. I can see how it can help this person. Like, wow, this is going to take what we're doing to a whole nother level. So I've been with them that long because I'm passionate about it and I believe in it. And I like being part of things from the beginning. I like seeing something grow and being a part of that process. Same with UFC, with the BT, say with the PFL now from the beginning, PowerPlate, it's rewarding for me.
Well, I think it says a lot about you as a character, or as a lot about your character and you as a professional, that you have these long-standing relationships with you know, very large companies.
Yeah.
And you've developed a relationship that you are a go-to person, a trusted person, someone that they want to be along for the journey, but also someone who's been loyal during that journey. It's not like you're hopping contracts, going to different organizations, just trying to up your day rate, if you will.
Yeah.
You're loyal, you're seeing it through, and you're helping to build their brand along the way. And that's something that stands out for sure. You know, you and I both see a lot of people come and go in the industry. You know, they might be hot for a minute or two, then they disappear and fade away because maybe they don't have those same character traits. So that's something that I've always respected about you. You know, I've known you through the years and gotten to know you better personally outside of the professional side. So, you know, nothing but, you know, pure respect. And also happiness.
I appreciate that recognition.
Of course. Happy to see
Yeah.
how successful you are and how happy you are crushing it now. And it's exciting because there's always going to be a next chapter for you.
Yeah, for
You're
sure.
not just going to retire and be bored somewhere. That's not going to happen.
No.
Right?
There's still so much I want to do, but yeah, I think again it comes down to, you know, building relationships and genuine authenticity and passion for what you do, you know. And that, I think that's a big reason behind, like you said, those kind of long periods of time I spend with the people I work with.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I really appreciate you hopping on here and spending the time to chat with us. I mean, I'd love to have you back on again because I'm sure we're going to get inundated with questions. I didn't ask you enough about your diet or your training and all these other things. So we'll get a list of questions for the next time you come back, if that's okay.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me. It's really good to talk to you.
Of course. And until then, people can find you at CarolynPearceTV.com or on Instagram at Carolyn Pearce. And am I saying Carolyn or Caroline?
Caroline.
Caroline.
You can say what you want, but Caroline. Yeah.
I want to say it correctly, right? The way your parents intended.
Yeah.
Anything else, anywhere else that they can find you or that I haven't mentioned?
Yeah, just check out the TV.fit apps. Check out Fit On app. Maybe you can tag them. And yeah, at Caroline Pearce on social media.
TV.fit, fit on, and I'll shoot you text. Well, Caroline, thank you so much. This was awesome. I really appreciate your time. I'm looking forward to chatting again.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Bye, Mike.
Bye.